Partnering for Autism. My name is Vincent Myers, and I'm the Communications and Outreach Specialist for SPARC. We're so glad that you could join us, and we thank you for taking the time to participate in the SPARC community. SPARC's mission is to build a research community of tens of thousands of individuals with autism and their families. We'll be asked to register online and share genetic information via saliva kits sent to the home. These data are shared with SPARC researchers and will power important new research that aims to advance the understanding of autism and provide meaningful information and resources to participants. Before we begin, I'd like to just say a couple of words about how today's webinar will work, in case you've never attended an online meeting before. Today's presentation will be shown in a window on your computer, and the sound will come through your computer speakers. If you're having trouble hearing the presentation, please call the phone number at the top of the presentation browser window. We are recording this webinar and will post it on the SPARC website so it can be viewed at a later date. Please be aware that in order to minimize disruption, all audio except the presenters will be muted for the duration of the webinar. If you speak, we will not be able to hear you. However, you can use the chat box at the left of your screen to ask questions, either technical or for the presenter, and only the leaders of the webinar will be able to read them. Near the end of the webinar, we will leave time for a question and answer session, which will draw directly from your questions in the chat or those sent via email to the email address we included on the registration page. Please note that our speakers are not able to provide advice regarding your child specifically, but they are happy to answer other topical questions. We'll also be holding webinars monthly on a range of topics, so questions on those topics can be addressed at those times. I think that's all of the webinar information I have for you, so I'll pass it off to Alison Singer, President of the Autism Science Foundation and member of our Scientific Community Advisory Board, to introduce today's speakers nominated by the SPARC community.
Thanks so much, Vincent. I'm Alison Singer, and in addition to being the founder and president of the Autism Science Foundation, I'm also the mother of a beautiful 19-year-old daughter with autism, as well as the legal guardian of my older brother, who's also diagnosed with autism. So I am particularly interested in hearing from our two speakers today. And today we are privileged to have two amazing speakers, Dr. Patricia Manning and Ann Palmer, who are tirelessly dedicated to the autism community. These two individuals were nominated as autism heroes through a call for nominations in SPARC's newsletter. SPARC's newsletter goes out to over 20,000 subscribers who are all asked to nominate an individual that they look up to in our community, someone who has made a difference in their life personally or to our field as a whole. The SPARC team was so pleased to have received such incredible responses and ultimately selected Dr. Manning and Ann Palmer because of their passionate work to improve our community by providing expert care and through mentorship to parents, individuals with autism and their families and friends. I'm now going to read some quotes from the individuals who nominated today's speakers so that all of you can get a better sense of just how these women have made such a huge impact. About Dr. Patty Manning, one parent wrote, "Dr. Manning has been involved with our daughter since she was 3 years old. Our daughter is now 18. She listens to Dr. Manning and looks up to her for advice with problems she incurs during her daily life. Some sessions have ended in tears. I remember one session when my daughter was very young. Dr. Manning did our appointment while walking back to our van because my daughter just wasn't having a good day. She goes above and beyond her work duties in helping kids like my daughter cope with everyday living." And about Ann Palmer, one parent wrote, "Ann has been working in the field of autism for the last 30 years in a variety of capacities. In addition to being the first parent support coordinator for the UNC Teach Autism program, she has also worked as a chapter advisory to the Autism Society of North Carolina, lectured extensively on the role of the parent during intervention and IEP development, written various books regarding parenting on the autism spectrum, realizing the college dream, and how best to educate family and friends about autism. She speaks nationally on these issues while doing workshops with the Carolina Institute for Developmental Disabilities. She is my hero and has been for the last 12 years. The knowledge, support, and direction I've gained from Ann with every encounter has enabled me to raise my own child with autism in a more relaxed and thoughtful manner. Additionally, it has helped me as the current parent support coordinator at UNC Teach Autism program and has touched thousands of lives. It's clear that our two speakers have dedicated their lives and careers to their patients and families affected by autism spectrum disorder. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to both of our speakers. First, Ann Palmer, faculty member at the Carolina Institute for Developmental Disabilities at UNC Chapel Hill, will speak about how to build supportive relationships within the ASD community. And second, we will hear from Dr. Patricia Manning from the Kelly O'Leary Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders at Cincinnati Children's. She'll discuss how she has built community partnerships. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Ann Palmer.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this webinar today. I'm honored to be here. I'm the parent of a 33-year-old son who was diagnosed with autism when he was 2. In addition to being a parent, I've spent the last 30 years working in some capacity with families of individuals with autism or other developmental disabilities. Our topic today is partnering for autism, so I wanted to talk about 2 different support programs that I've been involved with that partner families and the professionals who serve them. And I hope that what I'll be sharing today will help you build better connections between families and professionals in the autism community where you live. I'm a big believer in parent-to-parent support, connecting families with autism to each other. I know that connecting with other parents who understood what I was going through was a lifesaver for me when my son was first diagnosed. I felt a part of a community. I felt less isolated in what our family was going through. Parent-to-parent support is needed not just when a diagnosis is new, but also as new challenges may develop with our children, as they typically do. Connecting families also promotes the sharing of ideas and resources. Some of the best information that I've gotten over the years to help my son has come from other parents, not necessarily from professionals. Also, when we connect with other families, we're developing a network of people who can stand with us when we need to advocate for our children or advocate for the professionals and the programs that help our families. Some of you listening today may be professionals working in a program that serve families with autism. And I think having a parent-to-parent support program available for your families can help in a lot of different ways. Families going through getting a diagnosis for the first time have a lot of needs, I think more than any one program can meet. So a parent support component can help meet some of those needs beyond what we can offer from our clinic or our office. If your program has any kind of waiting period to access services, having a parent support component can help those families as they're waiting. Also, most families new to autism are looking for resources in their community. And I've found that other parents are often able to stay more up to date on what is available in their community than we can as professionals. When I worked at the Teach Autism program here in North Carolina, I helped develop a parent mentor program that started in 1996. Since the beginning of the program, over 1,500 families have been assigned a parent mentor. If you're thinking of starting such a program, I think the first step would be to recruit your volunteer mentors, and those would be the veteran family mentors of individuals with ASD who are interested in providing support to newer parents just getting the diagnosis. Our volunteer parent mentors at Teach all had a family member diagnosed with ASD. They were all involved in their autism community. They were comfortable speaking with other people about their family member with autism, and they were willing to give the time and the commitment to help other families. We trained our mentors ahead of time about the guidelines of the program and their responsibilities as parent mentors. We trained them about confidentiality, how to be good listeners and provide support without judging, and about resources in their community. And once we had our volunteer mentors recruited and trained, We then matched them to the families who wanted a parent mentor. And I want to add here that this parent mentor program does a lot more than just connecting family members. It's truly a partnership between the professionals who work for the TEACH program and the volunteer family members who have been helped by that program in the past and want to give back to support that program and to support families. When I left TEACH, we had over 100 volunteer mentors available who served a number of different counties and TEACH centers in North Carolina. We wanted a really wide range of mentors with a variety of experiences so we could match them to families that were going through similar experiences. It was important to have a large pool of mentors because it kept our volunteers from getting too overworked. We had mentors who were parents of children very young, up to mentors who were parents of adult-aged children. We had parents with more than one child with ASD, parents of children with a variety of challenges and behavioral needs. Most of our mentors were moms, but we also wanted to offer dad mentors and grandparent mentors because we're seeing so many families, grandparents raising grandchildren with autism. We had Spanish-speaking mentors. We had mentors who were single parents. We had mentors who had used a variety of different interventions and diets with their children. Not all the families working with your program may need a parent-to-parent support, but determining who might need a mentor was based on some pretty simple questions that we had. How much support does this family currently have? Are they new to the area and don't have family in the area? Are they asking a lot of questions about autism, about resources that are available in the community? Have they shown interest in meeting other parents? Are there any particularly difficult issues that the family is facing with their family member with autism? So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. That was telling you a little bit about a mentor program that I worked with. Now I want to talk a little bit about providing support to families and partnering with professionals in the community by starting a support group in a community. Starting a group like this doesn't just build a community of support for the families. It also raises awareness about autism in that community. It connects the families and the professionals with information and resources available in that community. And it's also a way to provide support to the professionals who work hard every day for our loved ones with autism. When I worked at the Autism Society of North Carolina, I was the director of chapters there, which meant I coordinated their existing chapters and then helped in starting new chapters or support groups across the state. The Autism Society started having chapters in 1973, and now they have more than 50 chapters across North Carolina. These chapters follow the mission and the vision of the state organization, and they're a really important part of their grassroots support to families and to individuals with autism. Leaders of the chapters are typically volunteers. The chapters vary by size. They vary by where they're located. We have some in very rural areas of the state and some in larger cities. The groups also vary by the needs of the individual families and the needs of their community. Some of the chapters are very involved in their communities with advocating and fundraising, while others may be more about providing support to those families and professionals in their community. If you identify that a group is needed in your area and you're interested in starting a support group, I think one of the first things you would want to do is schedule what we called an interest meeting to get anyone who cares about autism together in one place. And you advertise the meeting as widely as possible within the schools, in places of worship, in the medical community, and you have somebody available for that meeting who's comfortable facilitating the meeting, either a parent or a professional. And during the meeting, you'll be discussing what goals the group may have for their particular support group. Do they want the meetings to be primarily support, or do they want speakers coming in to share information about autism at meetings? Do they want the meetings to revolve around more social opportunities for the whole family? And during this interest meeting, you would want to pass around some kind of sign-in sheet for people to volunteer for different roles in helping the group. I've found in my work that people will be more willing to participate if they have an assigned task of some kind. You'll also want to talk about during this meeting where the group might be able to have their meetings, maybe in a school or a church, a hospital or library. Typically those places will offer free meeting locations. Now, I'll be honest, there will be challenges in keeping a support group growing once you started one. Dealing with the turnover in leadership sometimes, or leaders that may become burned out, keeping the attendance up for your meetings, and frankly just meeting the needs of all of the different people who might attend your support group. But having a group like this available for families when they need it is really, really important. And having a group where professionals who care about autism can go and feel supported is also very important. Partnering with other families, with professionals who care about our families, builds that community of support that our child's going to need throughout their lives. And in closing, I just want to remind people that everything is easier when you're not going through it alone. And thank you so much for listening, and I hope this has been helpful.
Thanks so much, Anne. As Vincent said, we're going to save questions until after our second speaker has had a chance to give her talk. So at this point, I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Manning.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you to the Spark community for this opportunity. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you all about what we've done here at Cincinnati Children's, and thank you, Anne, for your presentation. I am so impressed with what you've built, and I couldn't agree more about parent-to-parent partnerships and how vital those are. So I'm going to talk about community partnerships and how our program has done things that I think are critical for a successful hospital-based program to do in terms of connecting with families and connecting within the community. But before that, I'll just tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician. I founded the Kelly O'Leary Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders in 1999, and that is a multidisciplinary diagnostic and treatment and research program for children and adults with autism spectrum disorder housed within the Division of Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. Currently, I'm the co-director of that division as well as the Associate Chief of Staff for Outpatient Services here at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And with all that, I still see patients. It's the best part of my week. I see new patients, and I see patients that I have followed for over 20 years now, and I have learned more from that experience than any other training or education that I've had. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to appreciate the role of the community and the role of parents in the autism community, because really the program, the Kelly O'Leary Center, didn't start but for the efforts of parents in Greater Cincinnati. Parents of children with autism spectrum disorder met with leadership from Children's Hospital back in the 90s, in the late 90s, to request more specific programming for children who had been diagnosed with autism at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. They really felt that a diagnostic program in isolation without treatment and ongoing care opportunities was not sufficient, didn't meet their expectations, and certainly didn't meet the expectations of a large institution like Cincinnati Children's. And so in 1999, with that push from parents in our community, the Kelly O'Leary Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders was launched to provide diagnostic services, a variety of treatment options, and ongoing medical care to children who had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And Kelly O'Leary was a child who had been diagnosed with autism just recently in that time period, and her family had provided startup funds for our program. From the very beginning, parents served as advisors during our program growth and development, and still do, and I'll share more with that. But early on, it was parents who helped us build our program, guide program development, prioritize different aspects of program development, and have always been the most important voice in my ear regarding our program. As we grew, and actually at the very beginning of the Kelly O'Leary Center, it became obvious to me that community partnerships were not only going to be important and critical, but beneficial and educational to our program growth and development. And so what coincided with my beginning at the Kelly O'Leary Center was being invited to join the board of our local Autism Society of Greater Cincinnati. And it was something that I hadn't been coached to do by any of my mentors or people who trained me. It was just something that happened, and I thought, well, that is a fantastic opportunity. I should do that. And serving on that board and eventually serving as one of the co-presidents of the Autism Society of Greater Cincinnati taught me so much about what was needed in our larger autism community beyond what I needed to do here at the hospital, that I now encourage many of our other members to join, to participate on this board, and think that it's an important part of career growth and development for a lot of our disciplines that serve individuals with autism, including our speech therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists, and our physicians. Many of our staff members in our program, Kelly O'Leary, is about a 60-member large program that is comprised of many different disciplines, as I just mentioned. Many of our members participate in ASG-supported social events or training events and step out into the community that way. In fact, for many years, my husband served as the Santa for the Autism Society of Greater Cincinnati Christmas holiday brunch, and it's an activity that he actually misses now that he hasn't done it in a few years. Another opportunity that was recognized as we started the Kelly O'Leary Center was the need to bring together in our region, really in Southwest Ohio, we needed to bring together a lot of different autism stakeholders, agencies and entities serving families and children with autism spectrum disorder. And it was a parent, again, who said, you know, we need a forum to bring together all these stakeholders. And so the Kelly O'Leary Center became the hub for what is now referred to as the Regional Autism Advisory Council, or the RAC of Southwestern Ohio, where we come together regularly, in fact, as recently as this morning, with county agencies from our Southwest Ohio region, our educational service centers, members from our program, the Autism Society of Greater Cincinnati, and other community members who serve individuals with autism, so that we can be working together in a coordinated manner to improve the lives of people with autism spectrum disorder. The RAC has been in place now for about, I want to say, 15 years, and we feel that it's been a model for other regional entities across our state and even in the country to bring together all the stakeholders in the autism community so that we're working in a coordinated manner. Many of our staff members at Kelly O'Leary also are presenters at an annual RAC-sponsored teacher conference to continue to provide education in our community to beyond, not just teachers, but other parents and professionals at this annual conference. Another partnership that we have been able to grow and sustain through not just the Kelly O'Leary Center, but the division in which our program sits, the Division of Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics, is our Family Advisory Council. So we actually have a parent of a young adult son with autism who sits in our division as a family outreach coordinator, and she chairs our Family Advisory Council, which meets monthly. Multiple diagnoses are represented by parents on this committee, so not just autism spectrum disorders, but Down syndrome and spina bifida, intellectual disability, and other genetic conditions. And this Family Advisory Council provides us with guidance on our divisional initiatives. They actually provide input on some of our research protocols. They serve as parent reviewers for internally funded research protocols for the division, and that input is really invaluable to us. We have people from the division present to the Family Advisory Council when they have a question about how to move forward with a certain initiative, and we get to have regular family voice on those types of decisions. Another very rewarding partnership over the years, and very educational partnership for myself and for other members of our program, has been with agencies and school districts in our region. So two very specific partnerships. One is that our program, the Kelly O'Leary Center, has an ongoing relationship with the Cincinnati Public Schools, and on the first floor of our building, we support a demonstration classroom that is for the purpose of serving a small number of children with autism, and that's about 6 students ages 6 to 8, that are served in that classroom. And the classroom is staffed by a teacher from the Cincinnati Public Schools as well as 2 paraprofessionals from the Cincinnati Public Schools. And then it's supported by occupational therapists and speech pathologists in our program as well as a psychologist who works in our program. And the goal of that classroom is to serve a small number of children, but to train teachers who spend 2 years working in that classroom and then move out into the community in Cincinnati Public Schools into other autism-specific classrooms, and then we get another teacher in that classroom for a 2-year experience, and then that teacher goes into the community. At the same time, we offer annual teacher trainings. We train approximately 50 to 60 teachers in our community every summer using that classroom as a hub and a vehicle for that training. And I learned many years ago from parents that we need to partner with our schools, and that if schools are doing this well, that sometimes parents need us in the medical institution less because school is working well. And so we really felt an obligation to work closely with our school systems and our school partners for improving the educational experience for children with autism spectrum disorder. The other partnership we have in our region is with our Hamilton County Department of Developmental Disability Services. So in Ohio, each county has an agency or a department of developmental disability services. And for many years, Hamilton County, which is the county in which Cincinnati resides, has provided our program with a service contract so that we can provide school consultation to schools within Hamilton County. And what that means is that one of our psychologists, she also happens to be the psychologist that consults in our CPS classroom, she, at the request of a school or a school district within Hamilton County, is able to go out free of service to that school district to provide consultation either on a child with autism or an autism classroom, to provide input and support regarding managing behavior, developing behavior plans, addressing curriculum concerns. We feel like this has been a great vehicle for allowing schools to access expertise that they may not have within their district, and it's free to them because it's funded by Hamilton County. And it has definitely allowed us to see what many of our patients are like in a school setting and outside the walls of the institution, and to understand that, again, we have an obligation to work together with our school systems to optimize the experience of children with autism in the educational setting and certainly outside of our walls. Within our division, our outreach coordinators, one of which is a parent and another of which is a psychologist, have felt very strongly about improving the community experiences for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. And one of the first partnerships that they pursued in their roles as outreach coordinators was a partnership with our local airport, the CVG airport, which is actually in northern Kentucky. We sit right on the border with Kentucky. And so our regional airport is in Covington, Kentucky. And we reached out to some of the leadership there as well as to some leadership at Delta, and wanted to work to build a training program for staff and professionals at the airport so that they could support individuals with autism who were flying. And we've had now, I believe it's 3 or 4 airport experiences. We refer to this program as SOAR, starting our adventure right. We've had 3 or 4 rather airport-based experiences for individuals with autism and their families to go through airport security, to actually board a plane, and at the most recent experience to have the plane taxi around on the runways with individuals on board so that they are becoming familiar with and sensitized to that experience. And it's been just enormously rewarding for everyone involved, the families, our professionals who support that activity, and we are looking to grow that model of community support to other settings. So last year we partnered with the Aronoff the Aronoff Theater here in Cincinnati, which supports a lot of different performances, but more specifically at Christmas time they have many performances of the Nutcracker, and our staff worked with their staff to provide a sensory-friendly Nutcracker performance, which was on a Monday afternoon just for individuals with disabilities and with autism spectrum disorder. Many of our staff were present at the theater to provide support, and we had other community members and lots of things set up at the theater in case anyone had difficulties or issues, and it was just an overwhelming success. It was the best part of my Christmas holiday last year was to be at that performance and see a theater filled with individuals who were able to participate, and their family members were able to participate in an activity like watching the Nutcracker and not have to worry about the things that individuals sometimes have to worry about when they have a child with disability and what might happen in a public place like that. We're also partnering with the Cincinnati Zoo to expand this type of model to what kinds of experiences there might be more beneficial for individuals with autism spectrum disorder, as well as our Cincinnati Park system. And I have to just give a tremendous shout out to the two individuals that lead these efforts, Dr. Jennifer Smith, and who's our psychologist, and Janet Side, who's our parent coordinator, who are the brain trust of this work. They have been just going above and beyond to make sure that the work we do at the hospital moves into the community and has impact. So what have I learned about community partnerships? And I guess I'm trying to frame this so that professionals on the line as well as parents and family members can take something moving forward. If you are a parent and you work with a professional, I think it's helpful to remember that you teach us more than anything by coming to see us and then helping us step outside the walls of the hospital and entering the community. I remember coming home from Autism Society board meetings and thinking, even though it was late and it was in the evening and I was tired because I'd been at work all day, I felt so energized by what I'd learned in those settings and the need to keep doing more beyond just working within the confines of the hospital. I've certainly had more fun being in the community, going to Christmas brunches or special events at our Children's Museum that are just for individuals with autism. It's wonderful to see the families and the children that I see in a setting that is more social and less stressful than being in the hospital. And I say this to the professionals, and I think a lot of you who work in the autism community know this, you don't know everything you think you know until you step outside your comfort zone and you go into the community and you interface with families, with educators, with administrators from other agencies, and really recognize that you're just one small part of a larger system that needs to be optimized to serve our patients and families well. What works? I have found that you have to be very explicit and deliberate about community involvement. It doesn't just happen. I've had other faculty members here ask me, well, who told you to do this, or how did you have funding to do this? And I said, nobody told me to do it. I just knew to do it, but now I'm telling other people to go into the community, and you're not going to get funded to do this. This is just something you might need to do on your own time, but it is well worth it. You don't, sometimes physicians and especially researchers think about, well, what is the time I have allocated to this? Well, sometimes you don't have time allocated to it. You just have to go do it. You have to attend events. You have to be present. You have to step outside of your environment, and as a professional, not be worried about that. I think as physicians, we might be the worst sometimes about stepping outside of our comfort zone. And I've had the opportunity to work closely with psychologists, speech pathologists, and occupational therapists, and seeing how easily some of those folks in those disciplines step outside and into the community has helped me as a physician coach other physicians and say, oh, come on, you can just do this. Definitely join boards. Be part of the leadership. A lot of these boards, as you heard Ann say, are volunteer-led. And yes, it's a little bit of extra time, but what you get back in return is I think more than you give. And that experience of being on a board, participating in decision-making, helping facilitate support groups and organize events, social and educational, is very, very valuable. And then, if you're in an organization or a center that can function as a vehicle for others to come together. We recognized as the Kelly O'Leary Center that we could be the hub for a regional autism advisory council because we didn't have regional boundaries. We weren't beholden to one county or one school district, and so therefore it made sense for us to be the meeting place for all stakeholders. And I think that's a responsibility that if you're going to serve in this community that you have to consider, that you reach out and be a vehicle for those types of activities to come together. And that's all I have to share. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've done here and look forward to any questions or comments.
Thanks so much, Patty. At this point, we are going to open it to questions, and our first question is for Anne, and it comes from Cindy Wills. And her question is, what do you think about starting a parent-to-parent group within a large corporation with the idea of utilizing virtual forums and webinars such as this one?
Well, I'll answer that first by saying when I was really hungry for that parent support, when my son was first diagnosed was 30 years ago, and we didn't have the option of the more webinar, virtual kind of support options that families have now. So I am a big believer in face-to-face support as being really helpful. However, I also understand that families aren't always able to do that, and that having a virtual format for information through webinars, chat rooms, whatever, is a way to get people connected. So it works too, and I think it's also a good option in that it's a way to get current and helpful and accurate information to people, which I think is so important with the internet now and the confusion that families often face in trying to determine what information they're accessing online is accurate. So I think that would be a great way to connect your families with each other, and it may be a way that's more usable for a lot of families these days who are so busy in their day-to-day lives.
Our next question is for Patty, and it comes from Jamie Hinton. Jamie writes, I have a teenager with ASD. I'm concerned about services for him after high school. Do you see more programs directed towards adults?
That's a great question, and fortunately, yes, I do. It's shocking to have been in this field for almost 25 years and see that only recently we've recognized the importance of transition in adult programming, because that makes me wonder, what did we do before then? But I can tell you that in our region, and I think this is we're seeing similar programs in other regions, a couple of our local universities, including the University of Cincinnati, has partnered with some families and some funding agencies, some private foundations to build adult programming opportunities, including what's called the UC TAP program, UC Transition and Access Program, or TAP. And this is a tuition-funded college experience for individuals with autism and with other disabilities, where they live on campus with support and take classes. It's quite amazing. We've been very excited by it. It is not for all individuals within the spectrum, and so now they're looking at expanding university-based programming to individuals who might have different skills and need different types of support through another program called Impact Innovation for Autism Spectrum Disorders. So the short answer is yes, I am seeing more development of programs focused on the needs of adults and more recognition about employment opportunities. Is it enough? It's not anywhere near enough. We are just scratching the surface, but I can say confidently that there is a lot of momentum in that direction and that it will only get better.
Can I respond to that as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to just add that because there are limited services for adults with autism compared to early intervention and for younger children, that this is also a prime time for a parent to connect with another parent who has been through that transition to adulthood before. I found that time in transitioning out of high school as a very overwhelming, scary, sad, exciting, a lot of emotions involved in that transition, and I needed to have support during that time more than I had in the last few years, because I was entering a whole new world with my son. So it is really a good time, I think, to find those parents that you can contact that have been through it before and can kind of advise you about how to get through that time and where the resources are. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I have a 19-year-old daughter, and we are in that phase as well, and I have really relied on the experience of the parents who have come before me. Our next question is also for Anne. Anne, you mentioned the importance of parent-to-parent support without judging. But what are some strategies for dealing with parents who may be judgmental about children's behavior and their diagnosis?
Well, what we did with the mentors in training them is we tried to prepare them for the fact that every family makes decisions based on their belief system, their family dynamics, the needs of their child, and that what works for one individual on the autism spectrum may not for another. That being said, you're going to meet parents or be trying to support parents who are making decisions different than the ones that you would personally have made yourself. And what we did was we just emphasized listening. We emphasized just reinforcing with that family that you understand their concerns, you understand why they're making the decisions they're making, why they have the judgments that they have. We're not going to try to correct any of those, but we're going to want to give them information that can help feed the decisions that they're going to make for their son or daughter. So instead of reacting to their judgments or their choices that are different than our own, we're trying to enable them with information to make better decisions, and not saying that my choice is better than yours, but just saying, I understand that. Here is some more information, or here is somebody that you might want to talk to about this. Just trying to give them as much information to make them feel like they're making smart decisions for their families. It's not an easy thing to support somebody who is making a lot of judgments. And all we can do is say, I understand, and I didn't have that personal experience, but here is what I did. And I think that typically works, at least for a while that can work and still provide the support that families need. The next question is for Patty. Patty, it's wonderful that the Kelly O'Leary staff serves on the board of the Autism Society of Greater Cincinnati and is so involved in the community. But sometimes as parents, we have difficulty encouraging professionals to come to our events and activities. So what advice would you give to parents as they attempt to encourage more professionals to interact with members of our community?
That's a great question, and I was almost afraid I would get this question because I can see the walls that sometimes go up with professionals around these types of opportunities. My first thought is that sometimes that you can breach that wall with a shared activity that has shared goals, such as around fundraising. I mean, I hate to bring money into this, but I think that one activity that has always been a very shared community activity for our program and our community has been a walkathon that we participate in as a shared team of professionals and parents for the purpose of raising funds for autism research. And so I think that was something that it wasn't just, hey, come out to our social event, but it was, we're all in this together, we're going to raise funds together. We have this shared goal of raising funds for autism programming or autism research. So sometimes it's meeting the professionals on their turf first, where they're comfortable and or doing something that will benefit them. I hate to say this, but that gives them a carrot, and then they're comfortable doing this again. I do think inviting professionals to give presentations, like was referenced before, having specific roles. Sometimes professionals like to know what their role is, and so having a forum where somebody comes and gives a very specific presentation on a topic, improving communication skills or using visual supports or toilet training. And young professionals need these kinds of presentations in their career. They need it to build their resumes and their CVs, and you can benefit from that as well as a community group to have some expertise shared. But the last point I'll make is that I do think that you need a champion. You need to identify who your champion is in a professional setting and who's your go-to person. And I know that's not always easy. I know that sometimes physicians and faculty members aren't responsive to that role, but that's what it takes. It takes saying, to somebody who's serving in that capacity, hey, you're the champion, you're our champion in the community, and we need you to step outside this this role that you have here at in your institution so that you can be even more successful. But the last suggestion I'll make, I'm sorry, these are coming to me as I answer this question, that definitely gets professionals out is to give them an award. If you have some kind of, our local Autism Society has an annual event where a variety of awards are given out, and when professionals are nominated for and receive those awards, they like to come. They like to receive that award, and it's a great vehicle to again, bridge that gap and breach that wall and get people to come out. So those are just a few little suggestions. I know some of them are playing to the egos of professionals, but that's a little bit of what you have to do sometimes.
Thanks, Patty. Those are excellent suggestions, very practical suggestions. I am going to be implementing your awards idea this spring. Thank you for that. We have another question for Anne, and the question is, how can I find out more about the training for parent-to-parent support groups and how to organize one? So do you have a website where people can go for additional information?
I don't have a website for that, but I would be happy to respond. My email address was on the first slide of my presentation, I believe, and if she'd like to contact me via my email, I can definitely give her more of a description of kind of what we did. We had two trainings for the volunteer mentors. One was more about the logistics, how you were going to get connected to your family, what your responsibilities are, confidentiality, that kind of thing. And that was maybe a 2-hour training. And then we had a more lengthy, a more personal kind of training where families, these parent mentors, would actually have opportunities to talk about their own personal experiences with getting the diagnosis, finding services, practicing their listening skills with each other, getting to know each other. So it's a pretty extensive ideas of things we used during the different kinds of trainings we did, and I'd be happy to email with Cindy, personally about that so I can give her more information, or anyone who has more questions can email me.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that we had that came in today. I want to thank everyone, especially Allison, Anne, and Patty for joining us for an amazing presentation, and to everyone for watching and joining us today. You can access this webinar in a few weeks on our website, sparkforautism.org, and you can also learn more about Spark and join online at sparkforautism.org. Stay tuned for upcoming Spark webinars. Our next one will be in mid-January, and more details on that talk are available through our newsletter. You can subscribe via our website. We also have a 2-question survey that will automatically appear when you close your webinar window. And if you could take a few minutes to fill that out, it will help us to provide presentations that are of the greatest interest to the community. Within this survey, you will also find a certificate of attendance that you can download and print or save. Thank you so much again for joining, and goodbye.